Representative Ocasio-Cortez, as a 700 a.m. this morning, you are the subject of an active FBI counterintelligence investigation. FBI Director Kash Patel's words detonated across the House Oversight Committee hearing room like a flashbang grenade. No warning, no preamble, just the cold clinical announcement that a sitting member of Congress was under investigation for national security crimes. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's confident smile, the one she'd worn while preparing to grill Patel about his authoritarian tendencies and threat to democratic institutions, froze on her face, her hand raised mid-gesture to emphasize whatever point she'd been about to make stop moving. The hearing room went from orderly congressional proceeding to absolute chaos in approximately 1.3 seconds. You have the right to have legal counsel present for any questioning. Patel continued in the same flat professional tone, the voice of someone who'd spent years as a federal prosecutor and knew exactly how to deliver devastating information. You have the right to decline to answer any questions that might incriminate you under the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. Do you understand these rights as I've explained them to you? Chairman James Comer's gavel was banging uselessly. Democrats were on their feet shouting. Republicans looked grimly satisfied. The media section erupted into frantic activity, phones out, cameras swinging, reporters shouting questions. What? OC found her voice, but it came out higher and shakier than her usual confident tone. Mr. Chairman, this is exactly what I warned about when I opposed this nomination. This is political persecution. This is weaponization of the FBI against ma'am. Patel interrupted and his voice cut through her protest like a scalpel. This counterintelligence investigation was opened on September 12, 2024 during the Biden administration. It was initiated by career FBI counterintelligence agents, not political appointees, following financial intelligence from the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network and signals intelligence from the National Security Agency. He opened a folder marked with classification stamps top secret, see no foreign between January 2021 and August 2024. Entities controlled by or affiliated with the government of the People's Republic of China funneled approximately $2.3 million through American climate advocacy organizations and political action committees to your campaign and related entities. These payments were then followed by specific legislative actions on your part that directly benefited Chinese renewable energy companies, Chinese rare earth mineral operations, and Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers. Patel pulled out what appeared to be wire transfer documentation. You took money from China, or more specifically, from entities acting on behalf of Chinese government interests. You then voted in ways that advanced Chinese strategic objectives in the renewable energy sector. That's foreign influence. That's potential violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. That's why you are now the subject of an FBI counterintelligence investigation. The room was in pandemonium. CNN had already cut to breaking news. MSNBC looked shell-shocked. Fox News was running AOC under FBI investigation banners. Social media was exploding. AOC's hands were shaking. Her chief of staff sitting behind her was frantically typing on his phone. Her lawyer, when had he arrived, was trying to get her attention, urging her to stop talking. But AOC, who'd built her entire brand on never backing down, couldn't help herself. You're accusing me of being a Chinese agent. This is insane. You're making this up to punish me for opposing your confirmation. Patel's expression didn't change. He'd been called worse things by more dangerous people than a second-term congresswoman who'd gotten lucky in a Democratic primary. I'm not accusing you of anything, Representative. I'm informing you as required by FBI policy when a member of Congress becomes aware they're under investigation that you are the subject of a counterintelligence probe. The evidence will speak for itself. He pulled out another document, this one with heavy redactions, but substantial portions still readable. Let me read you something. This is a translated excerpt from an intercepted communication between two officials in the Chinese Ministry of Commerce dated March 2023. The communication was lawfully collected under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act as part of routine monitoring of Chinese government officials engaged in foreign influence operations. Patel began reading in his prosecutor's voice. Clear, precise, devastating. The American Congresswoman has been very helpful to our strategic interests in the renewable energy sector. The climate legislation she champions provides substantial advantages to our solar manufacturers and battery producers. The investment through American environmental advocacy groups has proven worthwhile. She votes exactly as we require on rare earth mineral access, electric vehicle subsidies, and renewable energy procurement standards. She is proving to be a reliable asset for our objectives. The silence that followed was absolute. They called you an asset. Representative Ocasio-Cortez. That's intelligence terminology. It means an operative, someone working for their interests. And the evidence suggests they were correct. You received money from Chinese-controlled entities and then voted to advance Chinese strategic objectives. Representative Jim Jordan leaned forward into his microphone. Director Patel, just to be clear, the NSA intercepted Chinese government officials discussing Representative Ocasio-Cortez as an asset. Yes, Congressman, multiple intercepts over a 2-year period. Chinese Ministry of Commerce officials, Chinese embassy personnel in Washington, and individuals identified as Chinese intelligence officers operating under commercial cover. They specifically discuss payments made through intermediary organizations and her voting record on issues critical to Chinese economic interests. Jordan's voice was heard, and this investigation started under the Biden administration. Yes, sir. September 12, 2024, career FBI counterintelligence agents opened the case following a referral from Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network regarding suspicious financial flows from Chinese entities to U.S. political organizations. The NSA intercepts came later and corroborated the financial intelligence. Representative Jamie Rassin tried to intervene. Mr. Chairman, this is highly irregular to discuss an ongoing investigation in a public. The representative made it public, Patel said calmly, when she decided to use this hearing to attack my fitness as FBI director. She questioned my integrity, my loyalty to the Constitution, my independence from political influence. I'm simply demonstrating that the FBI investigates evidence of foreign influence regardless of the subject's political party or ideology. We don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, progressive, or conservative. We care if you're taking money from foreign governments and voting in their interests. He closed the folder and looked directly at AOC. You called me a threat to democracy in your opening statement, Representative. But the evidence suggests you've been taking money from the Chinese Communist Party and voting to benefit their strategic objectives. So, I'd ask you to consider who's the real threat to American democracy here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sat frozen, her carefully prepared attack on Patel completely forgotten. She'd walked into this hearing thinking she'd score political points by grilling Trump's controversial FBI director. She'd thought she had the upper hand, the righteous progressive interrogating the authoritarian Trump loyalist. She'd had no idea that Patel had been investigating her. That FBI had her financial records. That NSA had intercepted Chinese officials discussing her by name. That her entire political career was about to implode on live television. Patel wasn't done. Mr. Chairman, with the committee's permission, I'd like to walk through the evidence systematically. Representative Ocasio-Cortez raised questions about my fitness to serve as FBI director. I believe the American people deserve to understand what FBI has uncovered about her conduct before judging whose fitness for office should be questioned. He had 4 more folders in front of him, each one thicker than the last, and all of them had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's name on them. Patel opened his first folder with the precision of someone who'd prosecuted national security cases for years. He knew how to build a case. He knew how to present evidence. And he knew that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for all her social media savvy and media training, had no idea how to defend against a methodical federal prosecution. Let's start with the money, Representative Ocasio-Cortez. Because money is always the foundation of foreign influence operations. When foreign governments want to influence American policy, they use money. They just hide where it comes from. He projected a complex flowchart on the screens throughout the hearing room. It showed money moving through multiple corporate entities across different countries. This is $2.3 million making a journey from Beijing to your campaign. Let me walk you through it step by step. January 2021. China SUNTC Energy Holdings, a solar panel manufacturer majority owned by the Chinese government through state investment funds, transfers $500 to an entity called Global Climate Action Fund registered in Delaware. Patel pulled out corporate registration documents. Global Climate Action Fund sounds like an environmental nonprofit, doesn't it? Very American, very grassroots, but it was created in December 2020. 1 month before this transfer by a law firm in Shanghai that specializes in helping Chinese companies establish U.S. entities. The fund has no employees, no office, no website. It exists solely to receive and transfer money. He displayed bank records. February 2021, Global Climate Action Fund transfers $475 to Sunrise Movement, a well-known climate advocacy organization that supported your campaign. Sunrise Movement then spends $380 on independent expenditures supporting your 2022 re-election campaign advertisements. Door knocking operations, social media campaigns. Now, Representative, did Sunrise Movement coordinate these expenditures with your campaign? AOCC's lawyer put his hand on her arm, but she pulled away. Sunrise Movement is an independent organization that shares my values. That's not what I asked. Did they coordinate with your campaign? Yes or no? Independent expenditures by definition don't coordinate. We have emails. Patel interrupted, pulling out printed communications between your campaign staff and Sunrise Movement leadership discussing messaging strategies, target districts. Advertisement timing. That's coordination. That makes these contributions illegal because they exceed the individual contribution limits. But more importantly, it makes them part of a Chinese influence operation because the money came from China. Representative Nancy Mace raised her hand. Director Patel, are you saying China laundered money through an American climate organization to support her campaign? Yes, Congresswoman Mace. That's exactly what I'm saying. And that's just the first $500. There's $1.8 million more to trace. He displayed more transfer records. April 2021, BYD International, the Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer partially owned by the Chinese government, transfers $300 to an entity called Clean Energy Future Coalition, another Delaware-registered organization created specifically to receive this money. Clean Energy Future Coalition then gives $275 to Justice Democrats, the political organization that supported Representative Ocasio-Cortez's initial campaign. July 2021, Contemporary Amperex Technology Limited, known as CL, the world's largest EV battery manufacturer and a Chinese government-linked company, transfers $400 to American Green Energy Alliance. That money flows to Brand New Congress, another organization that supported the representatives' campaigns. October 2021, 3 different Chinese rare earth mineral companies transfer a combined $600 through various intermediary organizations to climate-focused super PACs that ran advertisements supporting the representative. March 2022, China General Nuclear Power Corporation, a state-owned enterprise, transfers $500 through a circuitous route that ultimately benefits organizations supporting her re-election. Patel looked up from the documents. Total $2.3 million from Chinese government-owned or government-linked companies laundered through American organizations used to support your campaigns. Now, you might argue you didn't know where this money came from, but that's why we have the second piece of evidence. He pulled out what appeared to be NSA intelligence reports. The National Security Agency, as part of its lawful foreign intelligence collection mission, monitors communications of Chinese government officials engaged in foreign influence operations. In 2022 and 2023, NSA intercepted multiple communications between Chinese officials discussing their support for American politicians who advance Chinese interests. Patel displayed a heavily redacted document with some portions still visible. This is a translated intercept from March 2023. 2 officials in China's Ministry of Commerce discussing renewable energy policy. Official 1, the American Congresswoman from New York, continues to be helpful. Her climate legislation provides our companies significant competitive advantages. Official 2, the investment has been worthwhile. Official 1, very much so. For $2.3 million invested through American climate organizations, we have secured favorable votes on solar panel procurement, rare earth mineral access, EV subsidies, and battery technology standards. She votes exactly as we need. Official 2, she knows the source of support. Official 1, she is sophisticated. She understands how these operations work. The money flows through American organizations, so there is plausible deniability. But the voting pattern proves she understands the arrangement. Official 2, will she continue to be useful? Official 1, she has been very consistent. She is effectively our asset on climate and energy matters. The hearing room was silent except for the frantic clicking of cameras and scratching of pens on notepads. Representative Jim Jordan spoke up. Director Patel, did the Chinese officials explicitly identify Representative Ocasio-Cortez? Yes, Congressman. In multiple intercepts, they use her name. They discuss specific legislation she's working on. They analyze her voting record. They coordinate their support with her legislative calendar. The intelligence is unambiguous. Patel pulled out a voting record analysis. Let me show you the correlation between Chinese money and Representative Ocasio-Cortez's votes. This is a timeline. February 2021, 1 month after first Chinese payment. She votes yes on legislation requiring federal agencies to prioritize solar panel procurement legislation that benefits Chinese solar manufacturers who produce 80% of the world's solar panels. May 2021, 1 month after BYD money. She co-sponsors the Electric Vehicle Acceleration Act, which includes subsidies specifically structured to benefit Chinese battery manufacturers. August 2021, 1 month after CL Battery Company money. She votes against legislation that would have restricted Chinese companies from receiving U.S. green energy subsidies, arguing it was protectionist and anti-climate. November 2021, 1 month after rare earth mineral money. She opposes efforts to develop American rare earth mineral mining, which would compete with Chinese dominance of that market. She argues mining is environmentally destructive, conveniently keeping America dependent on Chinese mineral exports. April 2022, 1 month after nuclear company money. She supports legislation making it easier for Chinese companies to participate in American renewable energy projects. June 2022, she votes against the CHIPS Act provisions that would have restricted Chinese companies' access to U.S. semiconductor technology. September 2022, she opposes tariffs on Chinese solar panels, arguing they make renewable energy more expensive. Patel displayed all these votes on a visual timeline with the Chinese payments shown above each vote. Money comes in, vote follows. Money comes in, vote follows. Every single time, Representative Ocasio-Cortez voted in ways that advanced Chinese strategic interests in the renewable energy sector. Not occasionally, not sometimes, every single time, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tried to defend herself, her voice shaking. I voted for climate legislation because climate change is an existential threat. These votes were about saving the planet, not about then why didn't you vote for American jobs? Patel interrupted. Why not support American solar manufacturers? American battery companies? American rare earth mining? Why did your climate votes consistently benefit Chinese companies over American workers? Because Chinese companies are ahead in green technology. We can't. They're ahead because you and politicians like you voted to make sure they stayed ahead. You voted against American energy independence in favor of Chinese energy dominance. And you did it right after receiving $2.3 million from Chinese government-linked entities. Patel pulled out more documents. Let me read you an email. This is from your chief of staff to a Sunrise Movement organizer dated February 2021. AOC is committed to aggressive climate action. The solar procurement bill coming up next month is a priority. We need your help mobilizing progressive voters to pressure moderate Dems to support it. This is exactly the kind of transformative policy we need. The email is sent 3 days after Sunrise Movement received $475 from the Chinese-linked shell company. Your chief of staff is coordinating with an organization that just received Chinese money to support legislation that benefits Chinese companies. That's not coincidence. That's coordination. Representative Jamie Rassin tried to intervene again. Director Patel, lots of progressive organizations support similar climate policies. This doesn't prove. Then let me show you what does prove it. Patel said, pulling out another NSA intercept. This is from July 2022. Chinese Ministry of Commerce officials discussing their influence strategy. The Congresswoman will oppose the CHIPS Act restrictions. As we've discussed, her environmental ideology makes her naturally aligned with our interests. She believes she is fighting for climate justice. She does not realize she is advancing Chinese strategic objectives. This is the perfect arrangement. An ideological ally who serves our purposes while believing she serves a higher cause. Patel looked directly at AOC. They're laughing at you, Representative. Chinese government officials are literally discussing how your ideology makes you easy to manipulate. You think you're saving the planet. They know you're helping them dominate the renewable energy sector and maintain technological superiority over the United States. He organized his documents. Let me summarize what we've established. $2.3 million flowed from Chinese government-owned or government-linked companies through American organizations to your campaigns. 2. NSA intercepted Chinese officials discussing you by name as their asset on climate and energy policy. 3. Your voting record on renewable energy, rare earth minerals, and technology transfer consistently advanced Chinese strategic interests. 4. The timing of payments and votes shows clear correlation. 5. Internal communications show coordination between your campaign and organizations receiving Chinese money. This isn't about climate change, Representative Ocasio-Cortez. This is about foreign influence. You took Chinese money indirectly through intermediaries. But you took it and you voted exactly how they wanted you to vote. That's being a foreign agent, and that's a federal crime. Representative Byron Donalds stood up. Director Patel, has she registered as a foreign agent under FAR? No, Congressman, which is an additional violation. Anyone who acts in the United States at the direction of a foreign government must register with the Department of Justice. She hasn't, so she's an unregistered Chinese agent. That's what the evidence suggests. Yes, sir. Patel closed his first folder and reached for the second one labeled Green New Deal. Financial conflicts of interest. Mr. Chairman, we've established the Chinese money. Now, let's talk about how Representative Ocasio-Cortez personally profited from the Green New Deal legislation she championed. Because the corruption wasn't just foreign, it was also domestic, and it involved her boyfriend's consulting business making millions from companies that benefited from her votes. AOC's lawyer was frantically whispering in her ear, telling her to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights and stop participating. But she was paralyzed, unable to process what was happening fast enough to protect herself. And Kash Patel wasn't giving her time to recover. The former prosecutor knew that momentum was everything. Keep presenting evidence, keep applying pressure, don't let the witness regroup. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, let's discuss Riley Roberts and how your household made millions from your climate legislation. Patel opened the second folder with the efficiency of someone who'd spent years building cases against sophisticated financial criminals. The Green New Deal had been AOC's signature policy proposal, her claim to transformational leadership. He was about to show it was also her personal profit center. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, when you introduced the Green New Deal resolution in 2019, you presented it as a transformative vision for addressing climate change and economic inequality. You positioned yourself as fighting for working people against corporate greed. Is that fair to say? AOC, still reeling from the Chinese money revelations, managed to nod. The Green New Deal is about creating millions of good-paying jobs. Well, let's talk about who got those good-paying jobs. Patel interrupted. Specifically, let's talk about your boyfriend Riley Roberts and his consulting firm. He projected corporate documents on the screen. Riley Roberts operates a company called RR Consulting LLC registered in Delaware in 2019. The same year you introduced the Green New Deal. According to the company's filed documents, it provides strategic consulting services to renewable energy companies and climate advocacy organizations. Patel pulled out financial records. Between 2020 and 2024, RR Consulting received approximately $2.6 million in fees from companies in the renewable energy sector. Now consulting is a legitimate business. But let's look at which companies paid him and what happened after they paid him. He displayed a chart showing company names, payment amounts, and subsequent legislative actions. March 2020, Solaris Energy Systems, a solar installation company, pays RR Consulting $150 for market analysis and government relations advisory services. April 20, 2020, you introduce H.R. 6435, the Solar Energy Procurement Act, which requires federal buildings to prioritize solar installations and provides tax credits for solar companies. May 2020, the bill passes committee. Solaris Energy Systems stock price increases 34%. June 2020, Solaris wins $47 million in federal contracts for solar installations at government facilities. Your boyfriend's firm got paid $150 to $1. You introduced legislation that directly benefited that company. The company got $47 million in federal contracts. Do you see the problem? Representative AOC tried to respond. Riley's business is separate from my. It's not separate when you live together and share finances. Patel cut her off. You filed joint tax returns with him in 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. His income is your household income. When his company makes $2.60 $6 million, your household makes $2.6 million. And he made that money from companies that benefited from legislation you sponsored. He pulled out more examples. August 2020. VoltEdge Battery Technologies pays RR Consulting $200. September 2020, you co-sponsor the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Act with provisions specifically benefiting battery storage companies. November 2020, VoltEdge receives $23 million in Department of Energy grants for battery research grants created by legislation you supported. January 2021, EcoWind Solutions pays RR Consulting $180. February 2021, You vote for wind energy subsidies in the CO relief bill. March 2021, Ecowind receives $31 million in contracts for offshore wind development. The pattern repeats over and over. Company pays your boyfriend, you introduce or support legislation. Company gets government money, your household profits. Representative Jim Jordan leaned forward. Director Patel, did Representative Ocasio-Cortez disclose these conflicts of interest before voting on this legislation? No, Congressman. House ethics rules require members to disclose any personal financial interest that could be affected by legislation. She should have disclosed that her household was receiving income from companies that would benefit from her votes. She didn't. That's an ethics violation. At minimum, yes, sir, but it may also be criminal. If she knowingly voted on legislation to benefit companies paying her household in exchange for those votes. That's bribery. That's honest services fraud. That's federal corruption. Patel pulled out email evidence. FBI obtained emails through lawful search warrants executed on Riley Roberts' business accounts. Let me read one from Roberts to the CEO of Solaris Energy Systems dated March 20 to 20. Thank you for engaging RR Consulting. I've reviewed the Solar Procurement Act that Alex is introducing next month. Your company is well positioned to benefit significantly. I recommend preparing your federal contracting infrastructure now so you can move quickly when the bill passes. My consulting fee is 3% of contract value for successful government bids. I'll send an invoice after your first contract is awarded. Patel looked up. He's not providing market analysis. He's brokering access to legislation his girlfriend is introducing. And he's charging a percentage of the government contracts these companies receive. That's not consulting. That's selling legislative influence. He read another email. This is from Riley Roberts to Voltage Battery Technologies. August 2020. Alex is working on electric vehicle infrastructure legislation that includes significant battery storage components. I can provide insight into the legislative language and timing. I'm also available to facilitate introductions to her staff if your government affairs team needs direct access. My fee for this engagement is $200 plus 2% of any federal grants you receive related to battery technology. He's literally selling access to your office and taking a cut of federal grants. That's corruption. Representative Ocasio-Cortez. Representative Nancy Mace spoke up. Director Patel, did any of these companies get to meet with Representative Ocasio-Cortez or her staff? Yes. Congresswoman FBI has visitor logs showing executives from at least 7 companies that paid Riley Roberts' firm met with Representative Ocasio-Cortez or senior staff members within weeks of making payments to RR Consulting. So, they paid the boyfriend, then got meetings with her office. Then she voted for legislation that benefited them. Correct. And then they received federal contracts or grants totaling approximately $180 million across all the companies involved. Patel displayed a comprehensive chart. Let me show you the full scope companies that paid Riley Roberts' firm 12 total payments to Riley Roberts' $2 billion. Legislation introduced or supported by AOC that benefited these companies. 8 bills, federal contracts, grants received by these companies. $180 million Riley Roberts' fees as percentage of government money. 4%. She helped these companies get $180 million in taxpayer money. Her boyfriend's firm received $2.6 million. Your household made millions by using your congressional office to benefit companies that paid your boyfriend. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez found her voice. Though it was defensive now rather than confident. Riley's business is legitimate. He has expertise in renewable energy. Does he? Patel interrupted. What's his educational background in renewable energy? What's his work experience in the field? Silence. I can answer that. Patel said he has a bachelor's degree in sociology from Boston University. Before meeting you, he worked in marketing. He has zero technical expertise in solar energy, battery technology, or wind power. His only qualification is that he's your boyfriend and you vote on energy legislation. He pulled out more documents. And here's the really damning part. FBI forensic accountants analyzed RR Consulting's expenses. The company claimed to do consulting work for these renewable energy companies. But there are no work products, no reports, no market analyses, no strategic plans. The company has no office, no employees. Riley Roberts didn't actually do any work. Companies just paid him money. And then you voted for legislation that benefited them. Patel displayed bank records. And where did that $26 million go? Within days of receiving payments. $78 for a Tesla Model S, $45 for luxury vacations. $120 for a down payment on a Washington, D.C. condo. $35 for designer furniture. $90 paid off credit card debt. $200 to investment accounts. None of it went to business expenses. No office rent, no employee salaries, no research costs, just personal luxury purchases. Because this wasn't a real business. It was a vehicle for converting legislative influence into personal wealth. Representative Byron Donald stood up, his voice angry. Director Patel let me understand this. She introduced the Green New Deal, claiming to fight for working people and against corporate greed. But she was actually taking money from companies through her boyfriend and voting to give those companies federal contracts. That's exactly right, Congressman. While living in a luxury condo, driving a Tesla, taking expensive vacations, and accumulating wealth. Yes, sir. All while claiming to be a democratic socialist fighting against income inequality. Yes, sir. The irony is substantial. Patel organized his documents. Mr. Chairman, let me be very clear about what we've established. This isn't just hypocrisy, though the hypocrisy is staggering. This is federal corruption. She used her congressional office to benefit companies that paid her boyfriend. That's honest services fraud. That's bribery. That's theft of honest services. He pulled out one final document. And we have one more email that makes the criminal intent explicit. This is from AOC's personal email account to Riley Roberts dated June 2021. The EV infrastructure bill is moving faster than expected. Make sure Voltage is ready to bid on the battery grants. Your consulting fee from them was good for our savings account. Let's try to line up 2 to 3 more clients like that before the year ends. These green energy companies have money to spend and we should benefit from the work I'm doing on climate legislation. She explicitly acknowledges that his consulting fees benefit our savings account and connects it to the work I'm doing on climate legislation. That's an admission that she's using her legislative work to generate income through his fake consulting business. Representative Jim Jordan's voice was grim. Director Patel, is she going to be charged with these crimes? The evidence has been presented to the Department of Justice's Public Integrity Section. Mr. Chairman, I expect charges to be filed within the next few weeks. Patel closed the second folder and reached for the third, labeled Classified Information Leaks. National security violations. Mr. Chairman, we've covered the Chinese money and the domestic corruption. Now, I need to discuss something even more serious. Representative Ocasio-Cortez has been leaking classified information to media outlets for political gain. And those leaks have compromised intelligence operations and damaged national security. For the first time, real fear crossed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's face. Taking money was one thing. Leaking classified information was federal prison territory. And Kash Patel, former House Intelligence Committee senior counsel, who knew exactly how classified information was supposed to be handled, was about to prove she'd committed one of the most serious crimes a member of Congress could commit. Patel opened the third folder. And this one was noticeably different. The documents inside had classification markings, redaction stamps, and the kind of security handling indicators that meant serious crimes had been committed. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, you sit on the House Oversight Committee, which gives you access to classified briefings on various national security matters. Is that correct? AOC, now visibly shaken and consulting with her lawyer after every question, nodded slowly. Yes, and when you receive classified briefings, you are required to protect that information. You can't share it with media. You can't tweet about it. You can't use it for political purposes. You understand that? Yes, I understand classification protocols. Then explain this. Patel pulled out what appeared to be phone records with timestamps highlighted. These are your phone records obtained through lawful national security investigation warrants. Let me walk you through a pattern that repeated 23 times over 2 years. March 15, 2023. 200 p.m. Classified briefing on Chinese intelligence operations ends. To Sabrant p.m. You call a journalist at the Intercept call. Duration 14 minutes. 7:30 p.m. The Intercept publishes classified documents reveal Chinese espionage network in U.S. The article contains information that could only have come from the classified briefing you attended that afternoon. He displayed more phone records. May 3rd Road, 2023 3 p.m. Classified briefing on counter-terrorism operations concludes. 3:22 p.m. You call a reporter at The Nation. Call duration 11 minutes. Next morning, The Nation publishes secret intelligence shows controversial counter-terrorism tactics again. The article contains classified information from your briefing. July 12, 2023. 1:30 p.m. Classified briefing on Russian cyber operations. 1:58 p.m. You call a journalist at Hufpost. Call duration 8 minutes. 6:45 p.m. Hufpost article. Inside intelligence. Russia's cyber capabilities. Same pattern. Briefing. Phone call article with classified information. Patel looked up. This pattern repeats 23 times. 23 classified briefings. 23 phone calls to journalists within minutes of those briefings ending. 23 articles containing classified information appearing within hours of those calls. Representative Jim Jordan's voice was sharp. Director Patel, are you saying she leaked classified information 23 times? The pattern is consistent with serial unauthorized disclosure of classified information. Yes, Congressman, that's a federal crime. Each instance is a separate violation of 18 U.S.C. Precursor 798 unauthorized disclosure of classified information. Each count carries up to 10 years in federal prison. Jordan did the math, so she's looking at up to 230 years if charged with all counts. Sentences would likely run concurrent. But yes, sir, the potential exposure is substantial. Patel pulled out more evidence. But we have more than just phone records and timing. We have the actual articles and we can match the classified information that appeared in them to specific briefings she attended. He displayed a classified briefing agenda with certain items highlighted next to a newspaper article with corresponding highlighted sections. This is the agenda from the March 15 Chinese intelligence briefing. These 3 items were discussed in the classified session, and these 3 items with nearly identical information appeared in the Intercept article that evening. The correlation is exact. Representative Nancy Mace raised her hand. Director Patel, did you obtain testimony from the journalists about their sources? We tried, Congresswoman. The Intercept refused to cooperate, citing reporters' privilege, but we didn't need their cooperation because we have something better. Patel pulled out what looked like evidence from a search warrant execution. In September 2024, as part of this national security investigation, FBI executed a search warrant on the personal devices of one of the journalists who received these leaks. The journalists' notes included descriptions of their source. Let me read some entries. Source: Congressional progressive female very eager to expose intelligence community abuses provides detailed classified information about Chinese operations. Counterterrorism, surveillance programs, motivated by transparency and opposing what she calls the national security state. Another entry source describes herself as fighting against militarism and intelligence overreach. Has access to classified briefings. Very reliable information, always accurate. Clearly has high-level access. And this entry from July 2023. Source confirmed she sits on oversight committee passionate about exposing what she sees as intelligence community violations of civil liberties, will continue to provide classified information as she receives it. Patel looked directly at AOC. The journalist's notes describe you perfectly. Progressive Congressional Oversight Committee female fighting against the national security state. There's only one person who fits that description and attended all 23 of these classified briefings. You. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's lawyer finally succeeded in getting her to stop responding. She sat silently, her face pale. Patel continued without her participation. But the leaks didn't just violate classification laws. They caused operational damage. Let me read from a damage assessment conducted by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The unauthorized disclosures attributed to the House Oversight Committee source have resulted in compromise of 2 human intelligence sources requiring emergency extraction and relocation. Exposure of 3 collection methods requiring costly replacement. Damage to liaison relationships with allied intelligence services concerned about U.S. ability to protect shared intelligence. Premature termination of 4 counterintelligence investigations when targets learned they were under surveillance. Estimated cost to U.S. intelligence community $31 million. Your leaks cost $31 million. Compromised sources and damaged operations. Representative Ocasio-Cortez. People's lives were put at risk because you wanted to score political points with progressive media outlets. Representative Mike Turner, ranking member on the Intelligence Committee, spoke up. Director Patel, I sit on the Intelligence Committee. We take classification extremely seriously. What Representative Ocasio-Cortez allegedly did is one of the most serious violations of congressional responsibility I can imagine. When will charges be filed? The matter is with DOJ. Now Congressman Turner, given the national security implications, I expect charges soon. Patel organized his documents. Mr. Chairman, let me read one more piece of evidence. This is a text message from Representative Ocasio-Cortez to the journalists sent after the March 15 briefing. We obtained it from the journalist's phone. Just left intel briefing on China ops. Much worse than public knows. Can talk at 2:15. The people deserve to know what their government is doing in their name. She's explicitly referencing the classified briefing and offering to talk about it. That's premeditation. That's knowing intentional disclosure of classified information. Not a mistake, not accidental, not deliberate. He closed the folder. Representative Ocasio-Cortez leaked classified information 23 times over 2 years. She compromised intelligence operations. She damaged national security. She did it deliberately to build her brand as a progressive fighter against the intelligence community. And she did it while holding a security clearance that required her to protect exactly the kind of information she was sharing with journalists. Representative Jim Jordan's voice was grim. Director Patel, in your professional opinion as FBI Director and former National Security Prosecutor, should Representative Ocasio-Cortez have her security clearance revoked? Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Immediately, she should be removed from any committee with access to classified information. Her clearance should be suspended pending investigation, and frankly, she should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Patel reached for his fourth folder. Mr. Chairman, we've covered the Chinese money, the Green New Deal corruption, and the classified leaks. I have one more folder. This one covers Representative Ocasio-Cortez's campaign finance violations, including the same $1.1 million in violations that were previously investigated, but now have additional evidence showing they were actually part of money laundering operations. He opened the folder labeled Campaign Finance Fraud and Money Laundering. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, the Federal Election Commission, previously found your 2018 campaign violated federal law with $1.1 million in excessive contributions and unreported activity. You settled that case, but FBI has now uncovered that those violations were actually part of a larger criminal scheme to launder foreign and illegal money through your campaign. Let's discuss it. Patel opened the fourth folder with the air of someone saving the best or worst for last. The FEC violations had been public knowledge for years, but what FBI had discovered went far deeper than anyone had realized. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, in 2019, the Federal Election Commission found your 2018 campaign committee along with brand new Congress Peak and Justice Democrats PAC violated federal campaign finance law. The violations totaled $1.1 million in excessive contributions, improper coordination, and failure to accurately report financial activity. You settled the case by paying penalties. Do you recall this? Now consulting with her lawyer before every response nodded curtly. The FEC investigation was limited to publicly available information, what was reported or should have been reported in campaign finance disclosures. But FBI has broader investigative tools. We can get bank records. We can trace wire transfers. We can follow money internationally. And when we did that, we discovered something the FEC missed. Patel displayed a complex financial flowchart. The $1.1 million in violations wasn't just sloppiness or aggressive interpretation of campaign finance rules. It was part of a systematic money laundering operation to hide the true sources of your campaign funding. He pointed to specific transactions on the chart. Let me show you how it worked. In 2018, your campaign was managed by brand new Congress and Justice Democrats, two PACs that shared staff office space and effectively operated as one entity despite claiming to be independent. The FEC found this was illegal coordination, but it was worse than that. Patel pulled out bank records. Between January and November 2018, shell company payments to PACs. Brand new Congress received $340 from an entity called Progressive Future Fund, registered in Delaware with no disclosed donors. Justice Democrats received $280 from American Grassroots Alliance, another opaque Delaware LLC. Both PACs received an additional combined $480 from various entities that FBI has now traced to foreign sources. Total $1.1 million in questionable money flowing to the PACs managing your campaign. He displayed wire transfer documentation. FBI financial forensics traced these payments backward through multiple shell companies and found they originated from Chinese climate advocacy organizations. The same ones we discussed earlier. $340. Venezuelan government-linked entities, $280. Iranian exile groups with foreign government connections, $190. Other foreign sources, $290. Your campaign was funded in part by foreign money laundered through American PACs and shell companies. That's not just campaign finance violations. That's conspiracy. That's money laundering. That's accepting foreign contributions, which is absolutely illegal. Representative Jim Jordan leaned forward. Director Patel, are you saying foreign governments helped fund her first campaign in 2018? That's what the evidence shows. Mr. Chairman, Chinese entities, Venezuelan government-linked organizations and others routed money through American shell companies to the PACs that ran her campaign. She benefited from foreign funding. Did she know about this? Patel pulled out email evidence. We have emails between brand new Congress staff and Representative Ocasio-Cortez from 2018. Let me read one from April 2018. Brand new Congress staffer. Fundraising is exceeding expectations. We have commitments from climate organizations, progressive funds, and some international progressive solidarity groups. Total projected 1.2 meters for the primary. AOC reply. Amazing. I don't need to know the details of the sources. Just make sure everything is legal on the reporting side. She's explicitly saying she doesn't want to know the sources. That's willful blindness. That's deliberately avoiding knowledge of illegal activity so she can claim ignorance later. Under federal law, that's not a defense. Patel displayed more damaging communications. In this email from June 2018 from Justice Democrat staff to AOC. Some of our larger contributors prefer anonymity due to the political climate. We are structuring their contributions through intermediary organizations to provide them privacy. This is standard practice in progressive politics. AOC reply. I trust your judgment. Do what you need to do. Structuring contributions through intermediary organizations is money laundering and she approved it. Representative Nancy Mace spoke up. Director Patel, you mentioned Venezuelan government money. Can you elaborate? Yes, Congresswoman. $280 was traced to entities linked to the Maduro regime in Venezuela. The money was routed through a Miami-based organization claiming to represent Venezuelan exiles. But FBI investigation showed the organization was actually controlled by Venezuelan intelligence services and used to funnel money to American politicians who opposed sanctions on Venezuela. Patel pulled out voting records. And what happened after Representative Ocasio-Cortez was elected? She consistently voted against Venezuela sanctions and called for normalizing relations with the Maduro regime. In 2019, she opposed recognizing Juan Guaido as legitimate president. In 2020, she voted against sanctions targeting Venezuelan oil. In 2021, she supported lifting restrictions on Venezuelan government. She took Venezuelan money, then voted Venezuelan interests. Sound familiar? He displayed the pattern side by side with the Chinese money influence. It's the same scheme: foreign government, money through intermediaries, campaign support, votes benefiting that foreign government. Patel organized his evidence, but the campaign finance fraud goes beyond foreign money. Let's talk about the payments to Riley Roberts, your boyfriend. He pulled out the FEC settlement documents. The FEC found that your campaign paid Riley Roberts $6 for marketing services that were never properly disclosed. But that was just what the FEC found using public records. FBI forensic accountants found additional payments. He displayed bank records. Between 2018 and 2024, your campaign committees paid entities controlled by Riley Roberts a total of $147, not just $6. The money was hidden by court, paying his LLC instead of him personally. Categorizing payments as consulting and digital services. Routing payments through brand new Congress and Justice Democrats before reaching his accounts. Using different business names for his entities. This is campaign finance fraud. Using campaign funds for personal benefit. The money paid to your boyfriend's companies went to your shared household expenses. Representative Byron Donalds stood up. Director Patel, so she used campaign money to pay her boyfriend who she lives with and that money benefited her personally. Correct, Congressman. And when you combine it with the foreign money we've documented, the Green New Deal corruption and the classified leaks, you have a comprehensive pattern of criminal activity spanning 6 years. Patel pulled out one final document. Let me read you an FBI forensic accountant summary. Subject: Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has received benefit from the following sources. Foreign contributions. Chinese Venezuelan Iranian 1.1 M to 2018 campaign. Chinese payments 2021-2024 2.3 M through climate organizations. Riley Roberts consulting fees from green energy companies 2.6 M 6 M campaign payments to Riley Roberts. $147. Total financial benefit approximately $61 million. All of this involved violations of federal law: campaign finance, foreign agent registration, bribery, honest services fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. Patel closed all his folders and looked at Chairman Comer. Mr. Chairman, I came here today to testify about FBI operations. Representative Ocasio-Cortez chose to attack my fitness as FBI director. She called me a threat to democracy. She questioned my integrity and independence. But the evidence shows she's the one who has violated democratic principles. She took money from China. She took money from Venezuela. She used her office to enrich her boyfriend. She leaked classified information. She committed campaign finance fraud. She laundered foreign money. She voted in favor of foreign governments that paid her. She's not a champion of working people. She's a corrupt politician who sold her office to the highest bidder while performing democratic socialism for her Instagram followers. He looked directly at AOC, who sat with her head down, her lawyer's hand on her shoulder. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, I've been a federal prosecutor, a congressional investigator, and now FBI director. I've investigated terrorists, spies, and corrupt officials. The evidence against you is as strong as any case I've ever built. You should get a lawyer. A very good lawyer, because the Department of Justice is going to charge you with approximately 34 federal felonies. And when you're convicted, and you will be convicted because the evidence is overwhelming, you're going to federal prison. The hearing room was in absolute chaos. But through it all, Kash Patel sat calmly, his folders organized, his evidence presented, his case made. The former prosecutor had just systematically destroyed one of the most famous members of Congress on live television. And he'd done it with nothing but facts, documents, and evidence. 24 hours later, the imagery played on every network: FBI agents arriving at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Capitol Hill apartment at 6 a.m. with an arrest warrant. The perp walk as she was escorted out in handcuffs, her head down, surrounded by agents and lawyers. The booking photo that would define her legacy. No longer the confident young progressive revolutionary, but a criminal defendant facing decades in federal prison. CNN breaking: FBI arrests reprieve AOC on 34 felony charges. MSNBC. Ocasio-Cortez indicted foreign money corruption classified leaks. Fox News. AOC arrested, FBI Director Patel's investigation leads to charges. The New York Times. Representative Ocasio-Cortez charged in expansive corruption case. Within 48 hours, her congressional offices were raided, computers seized, files removed, all bank accounts frozen pending asset forfeit proceedings, security clearance permanently revoked, removed from all House committees. House Democratic leadership called for her immediate resignation. New York Democratic Party began recruiting primary challengers. Justice Democrats and brand new Congress both deleted her from their websites. Even the squad distanced themselves. Rashida Tlaib issued a statement saying, "These are serious allegations that require due process, and which was political speak, for I'm not defending this." The Department of Justice unsealed a 183-page indictment that instantly became the most downloaded federal document of the year. The charges were devastating: foreign agent violations, 5 counts of acting as unregistered foreign agent China, 3 counts of conspiracy to defraud the United States, 2 counts of acting as foreign agent Venezuela corruption charges, 4 counts of honest services fraud, 3 counts of bribery of public official, 6 counts of conflict of interest violations, national security crimes, 23 counts of unauthorized disclosure of classified information, 3 counts of conspiracy to disclose classified information, financial crimes, 8 counts of money laundering, 4 counts of campaign finance violations, 2 counts of wire fraud. Total 66 federal felony counts. Each classified information leak counted as a separate charge. Each Chinese payment followed by a vote counted as a separate bribery count. The prosecution had charged everything, and they had evidence for everything. The indictment included 47 pages of wire transfer documentation showing Chinese money. Say intercepts of Chinese officials translated and declassified for trial. Riley Roberts' emails selling legislative access. AOC's own text messages and emails. Phone records showing 23 calls to journalists minutes after classified briefings. Forensic accounting showing $6.1 million in corrupt proceeds. Defense attorneys who read the indictment privately told other lawyers, "This is unwinnable. The evidence is overwhelming." Arraignment. Federal Magistrate Judge Barl Howell, an Obama appointee with a reputation for being tough on corruption, presided over AOC's arraignment. Prosecutor: "Your Honor, The defendant stands accused of being an agent of the Chinese government, leaking classified information that compromised national security operations and using her congressional office for personal enrichment. She has access to foreign funds through the entities that paid her. She has shown willingness to betray her country for money. She is an extreme flight risk. The government requests she be held without bail. Defense attorney: Your Honor, my client is a sitting member of the United States Congress. She has no criminal history. She has 3 congressional terms of appearing for all official obligations. These charges are politically motivated following her opposition to the current FBI director. We request reasonable bail with electronic monitoring. Judge Howell: I've reviewed the indictment and supporting evidence. The allegations are exceptionally serious, acting as a foreign agent compromising national security, systematic corruption. The evidence of foreign payments is documented. The defendant's statements about not wanting to know the details of funding sources suggest consciousness of guilt. Given the national security charges, the evidence of foreign financial support, and the severity of potential sentences, the court finds the defendant is a flight risk. Bail is denied. The defendant is remanded to federal custody pending trial. AOC was sent to Federal Detention Center in Alexandria, Virginia, the same facility that had held Paul Manafort and other high-profile defendants. She would spend the next 8 months there awaiting trial. The squad imploded. Rashida Tlaib faced primary challenger in Michigan, citing association with corruption. Ilhan Omar, who'd already been convicted in the Bongino story, was serving her prison sentence. Ayanna Pressley and Cori Bush both lost their primaries to moderate Democrats who ran on restoring integrity. Justice Democrats. The organization that had recruited and funded AOC dissolved entirely after FBI investigation revealed they'd knowingly facilitated foreign money laundering. Several staff members were charged with conspiracy. The Democratic Socialists of America membership dropped 40% in 3 months. The progressive movement that AOC had championed suffered catastrophic damage. United States v. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez began 8 months later. Judge Paul Friedman, who'd handled other high-profile corruption cases, presided. The trial lasted 7 weeks. The evidence was presented methodically. Week 1. 2. Financial evidence. FBI forensic accountants traced every dollar from China. Wire transfer records showed the money laundering. NSA analysts testified about the intercepts. Defense couldn't challenge any of it. It was all documented. Week 34. Corruption evidence. Riley Roberts testified he took a plea deal for reduced charges. Green Energy Company executives testified about paying Roberts for access. AOC's own emails were read in court. Do what you need to do. Voting records showed perfect correlation with payments. Week 56. Classified leaks. FBI phone record specialists showed the 23 instances. Intelligence officials testified about operational damage. The journalist testified granted immunity and confirmed AOC was the source. Text messages proved premeditation. Week 7. Campaign finance fraud. FEC investigators testified about the violations. Bank records showed foreign money laundering. Venezuelan defector testified about Maduro regime funding U.S. politicians. The defense attempted to argue. Political persecution jury didn't buy it. The evidence started under Biden. First Amendment right to share information. Judge shut this down. Classified info isn't protected speech. She didn't know sources were foreign. Her own emails undermined this. Riley Roberts acted independently. Evidence showed coordination. None of it worked. The evidence was too strong. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned guilty on 58 of 66 counts. Not guilty on 3 counts of campaign finance violations. Statute of limitations issues. 5 counts where the evidence was circumstantial rather than direct. But guilty on everything else. All foreign agent charges. Guilty. All bribery charges. Guilty. All classified leak charges. Guilty. All money laundering charges. Guilty. All honest services. Fraud charges. Guilty. AOC sobbed as the verdicts were read. She was 37 years old. Her political career was over. Her freedom was measured in minutes. Sentencing 4 months later. Judge Paul Friedman delivered the sentence in a packed courtroom. Ms. Ocasio-Cortez. This court has presided over many corruption cases during my tenure on the federal bench. I have never encountered a defendant who so thoroughly betrayed the public trust while presenting herself as a champion of that same public. You took money from the Chinese Communist Party, a foreign adversary, and voted to advance their strategic interests. You leaked classified information that compromised intelligence operations and endangered American personnel. You used your congressional office to enrich yourself and your boyfriend. You laundered foreign money through your campaign. You violated every oath you took and every principle you claimed to champion. What makes your conduct particularly egregious is the hypocrisy. You presented yourself as a democratic socialist fighting for working people against corporate greed and corruption. In reality, you were taking millions from foreign governments and corporate interests while using Instagram and Twitter to maintain a false image of authenticity. You deceived the voters who elected you. You betrayed the constituents you claimed to represent. You damaged American national security for personal political gain. And you corrupted the democratic process by secretly serving foreign interests while claiming to serve the American people. The sentencing guidelines suggest 20, 30 years for the foreign agent and classified leak charges alone. The government has requested a substantial sentence. Your attorneys have requested leniency based on your youth and your claimed contributions to political discourse. This court finds no basis for leniency. Your crimes were deliberate, sustained, and calculated. You showed no remorse until you were caught. You continued illegal conduct even after initial investigations into your campaign finance violations. This court sentences you as follows. Foreign agent violations 15 years. Classified information leaks 12 years consecutive. Corruption charges 8 years consecutive. Money laundering 5 years concurrent. Total 35 years in federal prison. You will serve at least 85% of this sentence before parole eligibility. Approximately 30 years. Additionally, you will forfeit all assets obtained through your criminal conduct. Approximately $4.2 million in accounts, property, and valuables. You are prohibited from ever holding federal office again. Bailiff, the defendant, is remanded to the custody of the Bureau of Prisons to begin serving her sentence immediately. FBI Director Patel gave exactly one interview after the conviction to 60 Minutes. I want to be very clear about something. This investigation wasn't about politics or ideology. I don't care that Representative Ocasio-Cortez is a progressive or a democratic socialist. I care that she took money from the Chinese government and leaked classified information. If a conservative Republican did the same thing, took foreign money, leaked intelligence, used their office for personal enrichment, I would investigate them with the same rigor. The FBI serves the Constitution and the American people. We don't serve parties or political movements. When the evidence shows a member of Congress is compromised by a foreign government, we investigate. When they leak classified information, we prosecute. When they're corrupt, they go to prison. That's not weaponization, that's law enforcement. His approval ratings remain strong. Overall, 68%. Republicans 91%. Independents 64%. Democrats 39%. Even progressives who'd initially claimed the prosecution was political had to admit after seeing the evidence at trial that AOC had committed serious crimes. Patel continued as FBI director, focusing on counterintelligence operations and public corruption cases. The AOC conviction became a cornerstone case in FBI training on foreign influence operations. The AOC conviction devastated the progressive left. The squad was gone. Justice Democrats was dissolved. Democratic Socialists' membership collapsed. The Green New Deal became politically toxic. Moderate Democrats regained control of the party, running on integrity and competence rather than revolution and transformation. The lesson learned: you can't build a political movement on social media performance and ideological purity. Eventually, substance matters. Eventually, the truth comes out. Eventually, corruption catches up with you. 3 years later, Kash Patel sat in his FBI office reviewing files on another corruption case. Another member of Congress, more suspicious foreign payments. The work never ended. His phone rang. His former colleague from the House Intelligence Committee. Kash saw the news. AOC's parole request was denied. Good, she'll serve the full 30 years. She earned it, you know. She still claims she was persecuted for being a progressive woman of color. Patel shook his head. The evidence doesn't care about her identity. The NSA intercepts don't care about her ideology. The wire transfers don't care about her Instagram followers. She took Chinese money and leaked classified information. Those are facts. Think Congress learned anything from it? Patel looked at the files on his desk. 2 senators and another representative under investigation for similar foreign influence schemes. Some learned, others didn't, but that's why FBI exists. To catch the ones who think they're too smart, too popular, or too ideologically pure to be held accountable. He hung up and returned to his work. Because in Washington, D.C., corruption wears many masks: conservative and liberal, Old and young establishment and revolutionary. But the FBI doesn't care about the mask. They care about the crime. And Kash Patel, the son of immigrants who'd worked his way from public defender to federal prosecutor to FBI director, would make sure that anyone who betrayed America faced justice, regardless of how many Twitter followers they had.